Let's talk about how to deal with haters online, shall we? All right. The number one fear that I hear people that I work with express about speaking their truth, whether it's in person or on the internet, is that they fear being hated. And they might not say literally those words, but it usually comes up in some sort of fear like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I fear that I don't have all the information. And this is a very normal, very human thing to be dealing with, and I deal with it too. These are some mindset tips that have really helped me that I want to share with you, because you can't keep letting these fears get in the way of the message that you need to send as a change maker and a leader and an influencer. So let's get you out of there. The first thing to keep in mind when you're dealing with haters online, and I don't mean people who are just disagreeing with you calmly in a rational fashion as an adult. I mean people who are trigger happy, insulting you, calling you names, telling you you've lost your mind, all of this stuff, is that those people are acting in a childish fashion. And when I say this, what I mean is not to insult them, but to literally say they're actually behaving like a child in that moment. Now imagine that you were dealing with a literal child. And let's say you're in a grocery store and you said something to the kid that they didn't like, or you didn't buy them the Twinkies or whatever happened, and they're going wild. They're just having a tantrum. You're so embarrassed. You're like, oh my God, what are the other adults thinking of me? And they're just mouthing off saying how you're the worst mom, worst dad, brother, sister, human ever. Okay, well, it might feel a little bit activating at first, but eventually you would realize, well, this is a child. I'm not going to freak out over what a child is saying. And it also doesn't make sense to yell at the child, because in that moment, they don't know any better. It's similar when you're dealing with people who are throwing hatred at you online, because even though they might be technically, physically adults, at least in that moment, they're certainly not behaving like one. They're behaving in a very childish fashion. And when they're behaving in a childish fashion, you can just recognize, oh, okay, yeah, this is just them venting their emotions right now. I don't need to get emotional about it. In fact, I can just keep doing what I was doing as an adult. Changing lives, empowering people, spreading enlightenment, inspiring. So if you start to view these people as not your enemy, or not people who just need to understand and you just need to convince them more, and instead you just view them as a child in that moment, it becomes a lot easier to not take things so personally, because childish behavior is emotionally immature behavior. It's being self-absorbed, so self-absorbed that you actually can't see the human that you're talking to. And unfortunately, there's a ton of that happening online, and we're just dehumanizing each other. But you're human, you're an awesome one, love yourself, I love you. There's no need to make childish behavior bigger deals than it is. The second one has two interpretations. I should have put like a 2A and a 2B. It's not about you. Getting your message out in the world is not about you. So if you're a change maker and you're purpose driven and you see inequities and problems in the world and you really feel moved to say something, then actually what you're trying to do is a service. This is not about you. This is about getting a message out into the world that you really feel in your bones, in your body, in your heart needs to get out there. So yeah, you might have people who are responding to you, but you're just the messenger. You're just the vessel for something that needs to get out there. And if you can focus on that, then you can rest in the peace once you've gotten the message out that, okay, I feel in alignment with myself. I feel in integrity. I said truth today. And the truth is not about me. The truth is independent of me. So that's the 2A interpretation of this. The 2B interpretation of this is when someone acts really childish toward you online and is spewing hate and is calling you names and is making all these assumptions and projections about you, recognize that it's actually not about you. It's about their perception of you, which is not the same thing. Particularly when you're putting out a 90-second reel where they know the person responding knows nothing about you. You actually don't have enough time to give your full thesis on why you believe the things that you believe. So even in the best case where someone loves you and they're really trying to see you and trying to hear you, it's damn near impossible for them to 100% see you clearly. Because while you're talking, you might say something about Kamala Harris. And regardless of whether they have a positive or negative opinion about Kamala Harris, they're associating what you're saying with other things Kamala Harris has said that you're not even talking about, or other people that they know who also like Kamala Harris, or this one rumor that they heard in a CNN report about Kamala Harris. So it's not about you, it's about all of their memories and associations and projections with you and the subject matter that you're talking about. So for example, someone might look at me and say, oh, well, this guy's black, so black people are Democrats, or whatever assumptions they may have. And it's okay, it's innocent, but just recognize it's not about you. It's not about you at all. It's about their perception. So once you internalize that piece, it becomes a lot easier when you see people just like putting words in your mouth and making assumptions about what you're saying, to just brush it off and be like, all right, bro, you know that's not true. And you also don't need to defend yourself because you know this dialogue is not about you in the first place. Got it? And I recognize that it's difficult sometimes in the moment when you're actually feeling the heat and you see the nasty comments and you have people maybe even DMing you, to keep these tips in mind. And that's why community is important. And I have a free community called the Courage Collective that is a safe space to be brave, because we're all there to practice communicating truthfully, to practice being more influential and getting a positive message out there. And no one is looking to play gotcha with you. No one's looking to cancel you. So community is one of the reasons I found it easier to speak out, because I have a strong community who sees me and knows me. You deserve to have that too, because look, ultimately being courageous means that you have to deal with fear. You can only demonstrate courage in the presence of fear, but you can make it a lot easier with community. So if you're interested in joining Courage Collective, just comment below and check the description for what to comment. Now, finally, lovers and haters. This is a more cerebral, strategic thing, so just bear with me. So we're actually gonna erase this for a second, or forever. And I want you to imagine that you have an audience. And let's say you have a podcast or an Instagram following or TikTok, Twitter, whatever it is, X, whatever it is. And let's say this represents your audience. These 5 dots. And now, imagine that you've been playing it pretty safe. You know, you've been saying kind of general stuff and kind of rephrasing a lot of what other people are saying, if you're, to be honest with yourself. And you're not saying anything that would piss anyone off. But you're also not saying anything that would really deeply move someone to follow you over all the other coaches and influencers and podcast hosts and creators out there. So you're just kind of in the mediocre middle, you know? It's like, if there's a spectrum, you're like smack dab in the middle there. And then let's say one day you're like, you know what? There's something I really, really got to say. And maybe it's about politics, or maybe it's about the health crisis in America, or maybe it's about masculine feminine dynamics, whatever it is. And then you decide, I'm just going to say it. I have to say it because I'm not going to be at peace with myself if I don't. And then, boom. These 3 people reveal themselves to be haters. And they leave. And they tell you, I'm done with you. I can't believe you said that. And they're behaving childishly. And you're like, oh my God, like, that's not even what I was saying. Like, don't you understand? Like, I put out all these episodes or all this piece of content. Like, how is it that I say one thing and you abandon me? Well, guess what? Those people weren't really fucking with the real you. And now they're gone. And now you're like, well, okay, I mean, I guess they're gone, but now I just have 2 people in my audience. So I want to have an audience. I got to pay the bills if it's your business. Well, here's the cool thing. These people become polarized against you, but these people become strongly polarized for you as adoring, loyal superfans. And what happens when you start to have real loyalty and real affinity? Well, these people start evangelizing. They start telling all their friends about you. They start buying products just because they want to support you. They start buying the products of your sponsors. They start wanting to work with you. They start trusting you, so they're willing to pay you more money for more exclusive high-end services. And then things really get popping, because now, all of a sudden, You lost 3, but you gained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 off of this one person. And even better, if this person also starts evangelizing, they start telling some of their friends, like, all right, this guy's saying the real shit. This girl's really with it. And then people start to pay attention. Think about how many things that you're into because someone told you about it because they were so lit up by the product or service or podcast or video or whatever. That's what happens when you're real. That's what happens when you stand for something. And we are all looking for more people to actually stand for something. So, to recap all of this, when you deal with haters, just view them as behaving childishly. Recognize it's not about you. And also recognize this important truth. In order to be loved by many, you need to be willing to be hated by some. There's just no way around it. There's no one in the world who's doing things at a high level who only has lovers and no haters. So do it for the lovers. Do it for the world. Do it because you love yourself. Do it because it's true. And you do that, and I promise you will feel courageous, and good things will happen from that place. See ya.